Okay, so let's continue. I've realized that the previous recording doesn't have these nodes there. So what these nodes basically do is it adjusts the position of these different arms, so that no matter which size I select, it's always centered at this point here. Okay. So now we have these nulls that allow us to rotate them like this. Because if you try to rotate these boxes, they'll always rotate from their center points, which is something that we don't want. And the null object can be used to rotate these according to the in relation to the center point of that clock. Okay. So now we have the basic setup ready. So let's move this a little bit like this, maybe. Okay. And also I can move some of them like this, this can be a little bit in this direction, and this can be on the top. I don't know the real order, which one should be at the top, so I've just done this alignment. So for the second arm, okay, there's something problematic. I probably messed up with the alignment. So I go to the second arm. Okay, it's like, it should be something like this. Now, okay, it seems if you think something has been misaligned, you can go to the front view and check from that front view that if everything is working as it should, if it's centered or not. Okay, because if you look from the perspective, you will always see some parallax shifts. So front view is the best way to check these alignment problems for this setup, of course. So now all these arms there are moving by themselves. For example, if I move or animate one of them, let's say, the other arms will not be moving in relation to the other arm. So what I need to do is to create a hierarchy or a function between these arms there. Okay, so that they will automatically be rotating in relation to each other. Okay, so I'll zero this out. So, and also there is, for example, I want this to be, when I hit play, I want this to be automatically rotating. Okay. So for now, nothing happens, but I can use this progression of time in the Espresso editor as a driving force for the animation. Okay, so to find that, there are like system operators, Espresso, general, time. There's a property like this. I can use time operator, drag this, and let's see what this outputs to. For example, I can drag this result operator here and drag this here like this to see the result. So when I hit play and stop, I can see that this value is changing here. Okay. So, but why it doesn't update real time? Because we have to go to here, calculate menu of the Espresso editor there, and there's an option like this, animation refresh. I need to check this, activate this, so that there's a check mark next to that. So now if I hit play, you can see that this value here is updating all the time. Okay, so this is the second, this gives out a second value as an output, this time operator here. Okay, so I can add another operator, let's say frame. Frame is another things like 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th frame. So this value can also be outputted like this. So I'll add another result node here and connect this frame number to here. And I see that when I hit play, it outputs a real-time frame number of my animation. For example, I'm now at the 19th frame here, and the result shows the 19th frame. Okay, so let's discover the other output properties. So frames per second, real, previous, loop, start, loop, and delta. Okay, probably this will be enough. Sorry? Click this red button here so that we can see the outputs of this operator there. So I added frame, this one. Yeah. Sorry?
How did you connect it with the animation, like the time and the result?
Like this, drag this here.
No, I mean when you hit
this one. You mean this? It's by default. This operator here is by default the representation of this time value. So it's automatically showing this. This has that function. This operator box here is automatically taking the value from the scene, like the at which frame the scene is, and reads that value and outputs that automatically to this value here. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't need to do anything to connect this animation frame number to this time value, because like this time is universal inside Cinema 4D, and this box is the representation of that. Okay. So now I have an output that gives me two different values in different units, which is this is the seconds and this is the frame number. So if I increase the frame number, my animation is for now 90 frames long. Let's say 300 frames long. Then we'll see that this seconds will go towards 10 seconds, like for 5, since it's 30 frames per second, it will go towards that space, that value, okay? So now if I go until the end of this 300th frame, now we see that it's 10th second, okay? So okay, I'll delete these. And you know now that they are updating in real time. So I'll use these values to rotate these null objects, which I named hours, minutes, and seconds. So let's start with hours. Okay, I'll drag this part here. And for hours, I need probably this value. Okay, I need to change this value, right? So I click and drag this B there and put it towards the blue side of it, which is the input side of that box. Okay, by the way, you can always zoom in and out by holding 1 and 2 in your keyboard, and you can scale them. Okay, so I'll connect this frame number to this rotation B, and immediately see there's a change. So I'll rewind my animation to the 0th frame. So, and I hit play. Okay, it's rotating like insane. So, okay, this is going too fast, because let's see what's happening with the hours. You see that like it's rotating insanely, like 6,000 degrees, like 9,000 degrees. So it's too fast. So let's try the time value and see what happens. Okay, this is more, because like it goes like this, right? By the way, why it's getting heavier, I don't understand. Okay, my Cinema 4D is, if I activate animation refresh and hit play, after some time it becomes laggy. I don't know why.
Doesn't do auto rotation.
Hmm?
Doesn't do auto rotation when the animation is on.
Yeah. So, do you want a full rotation?
I think so.
Okay. So we can define that in different ways. So let's try to first construct a relation between these different arms. Then we can add new functionalities. For example, I want to change the speed according to a certain number or something like that. Okay, so we'll start with developing a relationship between these different arms, hours, minutes, and seconds. Then we can continue as you like. For example, you have an idea and we can do that here. Okay, so let's start simple. So because it became laggy, I didn't have this problem in other versions of Cinema 4D, but I don't know why. Maybe it's a bug. So I disable this animation refresh for now, and yeah, now it's working. So now, although it's too fast, ours is working. So okay, this is too fast, right? So how can I slow this down? Any ideas? This is the hours arm, and it's rotating too fast. So what should I do? What can I do? The value is coming from here. The time value is changing too fast because we see that the angular rotation is increasing too fast.
Hocam time second'a göre değil mi? Saniyeye göre. O zaman yani saniyeye işte math multiply koyup
Okay.
böyle arttırıp yani multiply edip.
It's too fast. So what should we do? Do we have to multiply or divide?
Daha çok saniyede dönmesi için multiply etmemiz gerekiyor.
Okay, so let's add a math node. It's under the calculate menu, math. By default, it's in the add mode. So I'll select this and change the function to multiply and connect this time to there and then connect this to this part. So by default, the multiplication is done by 0. So if I multiply it by 2, let's change it, 3, 4, 5. So when I multiply, you can see that I'm multiplying the speed of this rotation, right? So if I hit 1, it's like this. Yes, so we should divide because we want it to be, for example, half the speed. So we divide by 2. So now it's half the speed of that. So we divide by 4, it's even slower, right? So I can rename this math divide node maybe as animation speed. So now that I know that this box is, this parameter here is adjusting the animation speed of that.
Ama başka bir yolu yok mu peki?
Such as, for example,
Ben bu time kısmında frames per second diye bir şey gördüm. Onu
Aha.
acaba yapılabilir mi?
this, you mean this output? Okay, let's see that. Let's see if it changes by adding a result node here and frames per second. It gives a constant value of 30. So frames per second is the default value of your animation actually. How many frames does this animation is playing per second? So since it's a constant, it can't be used for that. Of course, by the way, you can add keyframes in your scene and add combine them with Espresso, but now I'm all showing the old procedural way. So this will go on. This animation will go on all the way. If it's like 3,000 frames or 300,000 frames, it will always work. Okay. You can see that without adding keyframes that it's working all the way. Okay. So now I have a parameter here which determines the animation speed. So if I divide by 5, it's even slower, or even slower. So okay. So now the hours is rotating, but the other ones are, for example, the minutes and seconds are not rotating. So how can we define a relation between them so that they all rotate together, but in relation, in the correct relation to each other's speeds? For example, if this hour is moving from this angle to this angle, this minutes arm should have been rotated 160 degrees, right? Because like 60 minutes should have passed for this to move from here to here, right? So yes, great. So I can create a chain between these different values, different rotation values of the hours. For example, this hours arm, this hours object, I use this time value and divided it with some value, and that determined this rotation B value of hours. Now that I can use this rotation B value as an output in this side, let's drag this. So the same value is used as connecting other thing as an input, and I'll be then using this as an output to another object, right? So what should I do?
Öbürünün rotation biri bunun gene divide edilmiş hali olması gerekiyor.
Okay, like this. So where should I make the connection?
Gene division yapmamız gerekiyor.
Okay, where?
Bilmem kaçta biri kadar dönmesi gerekiyor. Hour'la minute arasında bir ilişki.
Okay, great. So we need to define a relation, mathematical relation between these two, right? So if I connect these two together and hit play, you'll see that they are rotating together. So, but I need to create a mathematical function in between so that one is moving, let's say, a specific number less in less speed than the other. Okay, so I can copy this math node, or let's add another math node from here. Math add, and what should we do? What should we be doing? Like multiplication, or division?
Hour'dan daha hızlı gitmesi gerektiği için multiplication.
Yes, so minutes should rotate faster than the hours, right? How many times faster?
60.
Any other suggestions? How many times faster? Or do you agree?
2 times faster.
How much?
2.
2. Okay, so let's try the wrong answer first. Let's try 2 times faster. Okay, so let's check what's happening. So when this hour is moving like it's 12 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock now, let's say. This should have been rotated until this part, right? So I can now do this like 60 times faster. There's something wrong in here, I guess, because like let's see. So yeah, not 60 and not 2. What should be the value? Any suggestions?
Hocam 5 falan
Why?
şu yani küçük çizgiler var
Uh-huh.
ya o arasındaki yani bir gittiğinde o tamamlamış olacak.
Actually, we should be thinking like how many times or at which time which arm should be where. So I can, okay, let's say this speed is too high. So I can slow this animation down by doing something like this. So let's increase the size of this so that I can see exactly where that object is, and let's make this 90 frames again. Or slightly longer. Okay, so when this is here, this should be exactly here, right? So let's check what we multiplied with. Okay, 12. We multiplied with 12. Why?
Because the other one was 5.
Five?
Hocam yaş kat hızlı gidiyordu. Bu da 12 kat hızlı giderse 60.
No, actually, since there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different hours in this one, right? So for this hour to move 1 hour, this should be rotating 12 times faster than that. Okay? You can increase the length of your animation by clicking here. Like not 90 frames, but let's make it 200 frames so that it goes more. Or maybe like 2000 frames. So that you can also keep track, like, is it working all the way? For example, when it shows 6, is it perfectly aligned with this? So yeah, it's more or less perfectly aligned, right? Yeah, from this view we can maybe check it better. Like this. Of course,
Hour kaçta bölmüştük şeyde? Yani 5 ismiyle başladık.
şunu 7. We divided by 7. So now I created a relation between the hours. Let's make it shorter like this. The hours and the minutes. I also need to create a relation between minutes and seconds, right? So what are the suggestions for that? The continuation of the same logic actually. Sorry. I'll be using this minutes rotation value as an output, right? And then connect it to the seconds rotation B value. And I'll again create another math operation in between. I just copied and pasted that. So let's try to keep the same logic, multiply it by 12. So let's see what happens. So now something is happening, but I need to maybe slow down the animation first by decreasing by increasing this value there, so that, okay, so yeah, in order for this to move 1 minute, this should be going towards, this should be completing a 160-degree rotation, right? Seconds. So for that, let's try to see how it goes. So for that, I have to multiply it with by 60. Oops, sorry. No, not 60. Even more. Not this one. Oh, I'm dealing with the wrong number, sorry. So when this minutes is here, this second arm should be like this. This should have completed a whole rotation, right? Yeah. So now when it completes a single rotation, this should go one minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, right? So now I multiplied hours rotation by 12, since there are 12 different hours, and then I multiplied that rotation with 60, since there are 60 different minutes. So now it's working as it should. For example, let's...
What was the animation speed?
Animation speed was, I divided it with, like, let's say 200. Okay. So now, do you have these connections there? Or like, ask me questions if yours is not working. So of course, like, there is, this is only one way of doing this. So there are other ways of doing this also.
Hocam,
Hmm.
numaraları bir daha bir gösterebilir misiniz?
Okay,
Multiplication.
I'll show. So let's check this. Okay. So what I did is I took the time value, and since in the beginning it was too fast, I divided that time value by 200 in the math node, math operator, then used it to drive the rotation B value of the hours arm, which is this one. Then I took that value and multiplied it with 12 in this multiply operator there, and connected that to the rotation of the minutes arm, and took the rotation value coming from the minutes arm and multiplied it with 60 to drive the rotation value of the seconds arm. Okay? So it starts with this, and of course, like, we can change the animation speed or increase the animation speed like this, even slower. So now we can see like a time-lapse animation. Okay, so any problems? There should be, maybe. So with this much nodes, using these boxes, now I have a clock that can be adjusted and modified according to different needs and different animation needs, maybe. Right? Of course, like, this is the most basic design. This can be much more beautiful, like there can be textures, materials, and all that kind of stuff. And even, for example, in the preset browser, maybe, let's say, you can assign different materials to different objects. Oh, this gold is not working.
Bunların bazıları benimki yani açılmıyor. Sürümden dolayı o.
What do you mean, like?
Bu işte bunlarda yaptığım Brickroll ya da herhangi bir şey ben bir yer denemiştim. Ama açılmıyorlar, yani hiç gözükmüyor.
Okay.
İşaretli bir şey.
Let me check in a while. So, okay, so are there any problems concerning your scenes and operators there? Everyone's clock is working. Any functional needs, for example, would you prefer a different way of operation or setting up of the speed or that kind of stuff?
Hocam, the hour arm does not move that much.
Which is not moving that much?
The hour arm.
Hour.
Like it moves, but it doesn't like reach 2, 3, 4.
Okay, let me check. You can combine this with a simple cloner, by the way, to create, let's group them. Okay. let's group them under clock. And I'll put these inside this clock and use a cloner to multiply them. As you can see, when I put this inside the cloner, I can create many clocks that are rotating, behaving in a similar way. So let's say in a honeycomb pattern like this, and in a closer now they're all showing the same clock, but I want them to be random. So when the cloner is selected, I go to MoGraph, Effector, and Random. It randomizes the position of them. I go to the Random Effector and deselect the position, and I select Rotation. And if I use this rotation, since there are no numbers on them, every one is rotated randomly to a different clock. So this can be a hypothetical, like a wall of world clocks, so something related to that. Okay? Of course, if I change the speed, everyone changes the speed. Or let's say, for example, I can make it in a way that it's more realistic. Tick, tock, tick, tock, or something like that. Of course, like I can create a system that creates a clock that is ticking in real time, like exactly at 1 second, like at 30 frames of your animation, it can go from here to here. It can also be calculated like that, so that no matter what you do, it will show the time passing in your animation. Okay? So create something like this and submit that. I'll close this one. And if I change the hours cube, okay, this is much better. Okay, so this is today's classwork. In our procedural clock. Are there any other functionality, for example, you would like to incorporate into this? For example, what would you prefer this clock to do? Not working as it should? No.
Kendi içindeki time'ı bölüyor olarak ama yani 30 saniyeyi 3 saniyede yapıyor. O yüzden fazla hızlı olmaz.
30 saniye 3 saniyede yapıyor.
Aynen.
We can decrease that by changing the speed like this from here. We added this division box here. We can increase or decrease the speed from there. Or yeah, we can create a system that allows you, for example, when the animation time value that is coming from here, this box, this node here, when this time value is 1, since it's in seconds, this rotation value of this seconds arm should be like this, 360 divided by 60 seconds, which is 6, right? So at the first second, when this value coming from this time is, let's do that. Let's inverse the process. Let's do this from the reverse, okay? Not starting from the hours, but start from seconds. Yes. Random. Okay, I created this cloner in the honeycomb mode, and I added a random effector and went to the parameter tab of it. Sorry? I selected this cloner and then added this random effector here. It's connected with the cloner's effector tab.
Hocam şimdi bu REM saatin gidişatını mı etkiliyor yoksa neyi etkiliyor?
This random effector only randomizes the rotation of this clock.
Hocam ben bunu atınca şey oldu. Sadece dağınık bir şekilde kullandım.
Yes, like this, right? Because I disabled this position and enabled this rotation and only changed this value. Okay? Yeah, it's like, it's not 100% correct, of course, but it gives the illusion that these are all different clocks. Of course, like now, they are looking at towards different angles, but these hours and minutes arms are all the same in relation to each other. So it's not that correct, but it gives the illusion of that. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So let's say that I want to make this a correct one. Like, okay, let's. So, for example, when, let's make this. By the way, you can change your animation settings or your scene settings. Let's say by going to the attributes panel and hitting this mode button and select scene. This is the general settings that are related to your scene, which shows like the frames per second of your animation. For example, how fast will your animation will be played, which is 30 frames per second. That means like if this frame number is at 30 frames, it means that 1 second has passed in your animation. Okay? So having this information, we can design this setup in a way that it always reflects your time in your animation. For example, when we are at the 30th frame, this second arm will be at second 1. If we are at the 60th frame, let's say, since 2 seconds has passed in our animation, this should be at the second one. So instead of like starting with the hours, I'll start with connecting seconds. Okay? So time, 1 second, if directly connected to that, it's moving too fast. But for example, I want, if I'm at the 30th frame, the second arm should be here, right? So which is like, if 60 seconds has passed, this should have rotated 360 degrees, right? The seconds arm. but I want it to rotate only 1 second, which means like 360 degrees divided by 60, since there are 60 seconds in a minute, it should be 6 degrees. So when time is 30th frame, so I'll see what value it comes. Since like I'm at the 30th frame, the value is 1, which means 1 second. But when it's converted into degrees, it outputs a value of 57.22958. So this is because because of a unit conversion. So let's change this to, is there a degree? No. Okay, let's search for a degree. Okay, calculate degree. So time okay, when I connect degrees to radians, okay. So maybe instead of that, what happens degree to degree, degree to radians to degree, okay. 50, let's connect this one to this one. And divide that this output should be 6 degrees, right? But now it's 57 degrees. So I can calculate. So what I should divide 57 or 50, what was the value? 57, okay. Integer or real. $57.296. So I should calculate 57.296 divided by 6. I should divide that value with 9.55. So let's try that. I'll add a math node and divide it by 9.55. And see the outputting value. Okay, it outputs 6. So, okay, now it's not working. Okay. So at the 30th frame, it should be 6 degrees, right? But, okay, maybe without converting it to that. Okay, now it's working. 1, 2, 3. The 90th frame should be 3 seconds, right? Now it's working, so let's increase. So now this second arm is working. Like if it's on the 300th frame, it should be at the 10th second, right? So it's working. Does it make sense? Or you start to calculate what it should be like in order to be, you start to discover rules and connections between different set of parameters. So Now I can continue from seconds to minutes. I'll use this as an output. And the speed of, let's connect these like this. Then the speed of the minutes should be 60 times slower than, or let's see how it works. Okay, 60 seconds, like 60 times 30. This. Now I'll divide it with 60. Okay, now you see that when 60 seconds has passed, this minutes arm has moved 1 minute only, okay? And now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's moving as it should in real time. So now then I'll connect this to the hours arm. And again, hours should be moving 12 times slower than the minutes arm. So probably, yeah. Okay, 1 minute, I need to make it 60 minutes long, so I'll multiply it with 60, which is 108,000 frames. So you see that now, okay, 1 hour of an animation is there, okay, in real time. So if I render this out, it will be a real-time clock video that shows the passage of time in 1 hour. Okay? Now this is the complete reverse setup of the previous version. This might not be so clear, but let me reverse espresso. I just wanted to give you an idea how things can be done. So, but still ask me any questions if you have.
Hocam classroom olarak real time mı ekleyelim?
It doesn't matter actually. I think you can upload the first version that until the part that we've made the cloners part. You upload it with the cloner, okay? Okay, so let's take a break, and in the last part I'll be showing you the final project. Okay? Classwork 6, I guess. Let me check. Yeah, Classwork 6. It should be visible, I think. Okay, there's an error here, so I'll just... Is it visible now?